An area of coaching that I've started to dig into more and really found passion in helping other coaches develop is the actual on floor aspect of coaching. There's a lot of business consultants and coaches and certifications and things, courses, all the next out there that are around the business side of coaching and health and fitness and service-based industries. And I know this well because I do that as well. I consult with health and fitness professionals and help them in their development of their business. However, an area that I believe and I feel is still missing and not as tapped into is the actual skill of coaching. And it sounds so strange because this is what coaches do on a regular basis. They're on the floor, they're coaching. However, what is taught majority of the time in most certifications, most courses, most education for health and fitness professionals, it's the nuts and bolts of stuff. It's the human physiology, it's the biomechanics, it's the biology and chemistry and physics, it's the programming principles, it's all of these things that are the nuts and bolts of coaching. However, what isn't coached often, in my experience, from what I've seen, is the actual skills that you need when you step on the floor as a coach to do a one-on-one session, to coach a class, to coach a sports team, whatever it is, whatever service you are coaching, the skills involved with doing just that, the things that we often just take for granted. And I know that this is the case because when I'm working with coaches on development of themselves and their business, their growth of what they want to do, we start to dig into these areas and I get the same look and the same response towards these concepts. At first it's this, yeah, okay, I get it. Communication is important, and how we stand is important, and how we non-verbally and verbally communicate and connect with people is important. I get that, but what about the programming? What about this? And then over time, as we continue to come back to the same things that always come up, the ideas of connection, buy-in, communication, they start to, I can see it change in their eyes when I'm talking with them. They start to recognize and realize just how important these subtle factors are, these subtle skills of communicating, of how are they actually connecting with someone, how are they listening to someone on the floor, how are they observing the people in front of them instead of just being a robot and seeing a workout and just relaying a workout. So I want to utilize the next few videos, episodes, whatever media you are watching this on, YouTube, my podcast, whatever it is. I want to utilize these next few to go over some specific skills in regards to providing a high level coaching service that are outside the scope of understanding programming and understanding, biomechanics and human physiology. It's outside of those things. It's these nuances that really, in my opinion, make a much bigger difference in not only the impact you have with someone, but also the progress that they can make. With these topic points, I speak to them from the perspective of health and fitness because I am a health and fitness professional. I've been in the industry for 15 years now, just over 15 years. And so I'm going to speak from that angle. However, I do believe that these concepts and some subtleties of them relay across the board for anyone that is providing a service to other people. And I'll try my best to convey it in a way that applies sort of across the board that way, for those of you listening if you're not in the health and fitness industry. But again, my point with this is I want to start a dialogue and a bigger ability for coaches to work on these skills that are the foundation to building deep connection and buy-in with those that they serve to truly get the results that their clients are after. So, with that in mind, this first episode, this first conversation, I want to talk about this concept about opening and closing. Now, this isn't opening and closing a sale. This is opening and closing when you show up as a coach on the floor. When you show up in the boardroom to provide a service, a presentation to a group of executives, whatever it is, opening and closing. So this is something that I observe a lot when I'm in a position of observing a coach on the floor to help them develop, to see where there's some areas of opportunity for themselves to grow as a coach and to become more effective as a coach. I look first at how are they opening. And so what do I mean by that? Opening is the way you show up for that session, for that class, for that presentation, whatever it is. It's the energy that you are bringing when you step on the floor. It's the demeanor that you are holding. It's the body language and how you were communicating non-verbally and verbally. One of the things that gets missed by a lot of coaches and health and fitness professionals is they go right to the nuts and bolts of what they're about to do. They go right to, this is the program, this is the movement, and I need to do that. I need to execute that. Instead of paying attention to their energy when they're stepping on the floor. And why that is so important, why I believe that this is a missing link that many, many, many of you can improve upon, is we as humans, as social creatures, we can feel energy amongst each other. Some of us better than others. And I'm sure that you can all relate to an environment where you could feel someone's negative energy. You could feel their emotional space in that moment. They walked in the room and you could feel the energy come up or go down in that room, right? That energy, how you show up and the energy you bring, is one that you need to work on. You need to be aware of. You need to be conscious of, when I step onto the floor and I'm in observance of those that I'm about to serve, those that I'm about to coach, those that I'm about to present to, what is my energy right in this moment? Because if you step onto that floor with an energy that is showcasing negativity, not wanting to be there, a general dissatisfaction for what's going on, guess how that's going to impact that environment? Those individuals are going to feel that. And as coaches, as health and fitness professionals, I'm sure if you've ever coached a class before and you had that one member that was in a mood, how did that change the energy of the room? If you also weren't being basically the flagstick, the central point of focus in regards to that energy of the space, if you weren't commanding that one person can change the entire feeling of that room. So opening as a coach is all about, primarily, first and foremost, how you are holding and showcasing energy. in that space. You need to show up with an energy that elevates people immediately. You need to talk to them and say their name and address them with an energy that elevates them. Because so many people come to their training as an outlet. Yes, they're working on it for their personal growth, personal development, their personal abilities, and it's an outlet for them. It's a means to let out energy, to, do something that challenges them. And so in that moment, you need to utilize that as an opportunity to elevate them with your energy, first and foremost. So how you open through your energy is one of the key foundations and skills that needs to be developed as a coach. So what you can do is you can consider, how do you step on the floor? How do you walk into the room? What are you doing just prior to that? I have a routine whenever I've stepped on the floor that I go through that sets my energy, because I could have dealt with something just before that, an email, a meeting, a message, something that pissed me off, upset me, whatever. I need to leave that energy there, and I need to come onto the floor with the right energy. So my routine that I used over the years was, I use a deep breath, and then I step onto the floor and I smile. I have a smile on my face, and I go and I address everyone individually. And that immediately brings the energy up in the room. How I stand and how I hold myself is secondary to that. Because you see, just our presence holds a certain energy, but then also visually, how people see us and our demeanor holds a certain energy, holds a certain feeling and impact on the environment. So once I've stood in that space and I've entered that space with an energy that is like commanding of the space and empowering of everyone around me, I then need to ensure that my demeanor is in line with that. I'm not closed off and kind of turned away. I'm present in the space. I'm not hiding in the corner. I'm moving around. My demeanor is one of energy. It's one of commanding the space. It's one of bringing up those around me. My body language aligns with that. From there, and again, most of this is happening before I've even said anything. Most of this is happening before any words have actually come out of my mouth. I'm communicated initially just with the energy I hold in the demeanor and body language that I have. From here, as the concept of opening continues, the skill of opening as a coach, you need to start to ask better questions. You need to start to communicate with clients and members, one-on-one or in a group, whatever setting you're in a boardroom, whatever it is. Communicate and ask effective questions. Again, if I'm applying this to the concept of a coach on the floor, your job in that moment to open is to get a gauge as far as where everyone's at. What's going on with them in that moment. But you need to be able to do it quickly. If you don't want to spend an hour working through where everyone's at. So you need to be asking effective questions for where everyone is at in that moment. And this is simple. It's an effective question doesn't mean it's a complicated question. It's a simple thing. But it's addressing each person by name. It is asking them how they're doing that day. Right? If you know that they've just started, come off of work, how's the day at work? Just get little tidbits of information that give you better insight into how they're doing so that you can better help them as you go through that session. You also need to be able to communicate what the expectations are of the upcoming class or session or whatever it is that you are about to do. This is the skill in opening that is also needing to be developed, because it's one thing to know what the workout is. You know the movements, you know the things, but how you convey that to people, how you communicate that to people is just as important. Just reading, listing off what's on the board, everyone can do that. Everyone can read what's on the board or what's on the computer or whatever wherever you have the workout. Everyone can read that. But how you convey it to them and communicate it to them changes how they perceive it in their mind. If you convey something in a way that highlights one or two key things that they need to be focusing on, they're going to approach that much different than had you just read it out. So if you're giving a presentation, if you convey it in a way that touches on two key points that you want to have as a presiding thing that you want them to be focused on throughout the entire presentation, it's going to be different than just a blah, general, here's the topic, here's what we're going to be going through today. You need to get specific. And again, this is a skill, because this is developing a skill of how to open a session, a class, a presentation, whatever it is. You have to practice this. You have to review and reflect on it and see where you can improve upon. Now, the flip side of opening is the idea of closing. Okay, sounds quite obvious. You have opening, you have closing. Closing is very much the same general principles as what we've talked about with opening. With closing, we're still wanting to ensure that our energy aligns with what we want the room to feel, the environment to be about. I've observed coaches where, as they go through the class and as they reach the end of a session or a class or whatever they're running, their energy shifts to, and their demeanor shifts to one of, I can't wait to get out of here. I'm looking at the clock, like counting down the seconds till I'm done, boom, then I'm off the floor. And it's not that they don't enjoy coaching or don't enjoy working with people that they're working with. They've gotten lost in the process of, what's next, versus what's in the moment right now. Who am I serving right now in this moment? They're looking ahead to the next thing, versus being like, I still need to bring energy right now in this moment. And I see this quite often with like warm-ups and cool-downs, right? Where when a coach provides a warm-up, it's kind of blasé, it's kind of not high energy, it's just, it's the warm-up, go do. And the cool-down, same thing, it's just, it's the cool-down, go do. There is just as much opportunity in the warm-up and the cool-down, or the accessory work at the end, or whatever it is, to coach someone and to provide them immense value as there is in the main bulk aspect of the workout. And this is a missing component that I think coaches need to work on. When closing a session, closing a class, closing whatever, they need to be focused and bring just as much energy on those final pieces of that session as they did throughout the rest of the training session. You are still within a time frame of coaching. People are still expecting you to be the coach. This is not the time to just now turn your brain off, pull up your phone, start scrolling stuff. No, you are on the floor coaching. So that energy needs to be held. That demeanor needs to be sustained. The body language needs to show that you are attentive, caring, and present to what they are doing. And then, of course, lastly there is the communication aspect of this. Just like in opening, you communicated to convey the expectations, to get a gauge as far as where everyone's at. You do the flip side. You communicate and connect with every single person to, again, figure out and see how are they doing now. How was that session? What did they feel with it? What did they learn from it? What did they experience? What are some things that they could take away from it? Because in communicating that and having a specific way that you close things down for a session, a class, whatever, you can take a lot of information, valuable information away from that helps you further provide value to them. I'm going to touch on that in another conversation a few episodes down the line here, but you communicating with clients and members after that session, after that class, allows you a great opportunity to pull some valuable information about what they are either wanting more insight or help on, areas of learning that they would love to dig into more, and opportunities for yourself as a coach to elevate yourself as a coach and to show yourself as the expert that much more. And so your communication that you finish with in a session or a class is imperative to closing that session or class effectively. Asking people what their plan is for later that day or for the next training session, when are they going to be in next? Identifying, what's going on in the stuff outside of the gym for them. They've been working on their nutrition or their daily movement outside of the gym. Communicating, connecting with them on those things in that moment can help trigger and spark them to be more consistent with it, to adhere to it. Maybe they were having, a trouble being as consistent with it as they could. And just that simple act of communicating, hey, how's your daily walks been going? That might be the trigger that they need to just go, I was starting to kind of waver on it, but I know that you're always on me about it. I appreciate that, and thank you for reminding me about it, because I'm going to get it in today. Beautiful, right? Those little acts of communication and connecting with people in your closing as a coach are so, so valuable to help people stay consistent in their progress. Again, no amount of knowledge around programming and biomechanics and anything else is going to give you that ability. It is working on these types of skills: the skill of opening, the skill of closing, and how you go about those as a coach on the floor. I hope that this provides a good starting point to think about for you, whether you're a coach in the industry, whether you are opening, closing a presentation in your workplace, whatever it is. The skill of opening, closing, how you show up, the energy, the demeanor, the body language, the communication that you bring is imperative to the success of that environment and those that you are serving. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know if you have any questions about this. And we are going to continue along this same thread over the next few weeks here, few episodes here. Love to hear your comments. Leave them whichever platform you watch on. Please leave me a comment, leave me a review. Let me know how things are. All right, get out there, level up.